Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. My name is Andrew Cavanaugh. I'm going to be talking to you today about the third season of Miami Vice. This is the third of 6 parts. And again, just going to continue on my critique of the series. As you can tell, I've had a change in outfit, and that's purposeful. Most of you are thinking, hey, where's the pastels? Funny enough, if you tuned into any episode during the third season of Miami Vice back in 1986-87, you were probably asking the same question. What the hell happened? Basically, between seasons 2 and 3, Michael Mann, the show's kind of executive producer, and more or less, I mean, not really creator, but he had a lot of creative control over the show. He left. He kept the title of executive producer because he was still providing money to the show. But more or less, the show's new kind of leader became Mr. Dick Wolf, who later became famous for being the creator of Law & Order, which is one of my favorite television shows of all time. Now, the problem is, Dick Wolf was already kind of starting his rip from the headlines thing. His whole deal was he wanted these guys on Miami Vice to deal with issues that were very much, signs of the times, and also very much something that if you read it in the news, it would be on the show. And that's the way he wanted to do the show. And Michael Mann didn't really, argue with this. He thought it was a fairly good idea. It was time for the show to get a little more serious, I guess. And with that also came a totally new style of the show. And the pastels literally are gone within the first episode. They are gone. The first time you see Crockett and Tubbs in the premiere of the third season of the show, Crockett is wearing, I think it's black, actually kind of similar to what I'm wearing here, is like black and gray with like a green or dark or black top or something. And it is such a stark contrast to what the people that have watched the show, the audience, had been used to for the past 2 years. It's a crazy change. And also, the show also just automatically starts with this extremely dark tone. And that runs through the whole season. Dick Wolf obviously had a lot of creative control because the show is no longer Miami Vice at this point. It's some other show with these characters in it. And I kind of like the third season of the show. I think it's kind of interesting that they went to a darker tone. But it really shocked the hell out of a lot of people at the time. And people that I talked to that were around during the time when this show was first airing really hated the fact that the show changed, like, literally overnight. It was not something that went over well, especially the clothing changes. That was a big mistake. Along with that, also, again, spoiler alert here, so if you don't want to hear this, skip about a minute into the future here in the video. But they blow up the Ferrari, the black Daytona Ferrari that is famous for being driven by Crockett and Tubbs, is blown up by a rocket launcher in the premiere episode to be replaced an episode or 2 later with a white Testarossa, which they kept for the rest of the show. And it's kind of shocking. I mean, it's almost like they're changing it, and it's in your face. They're changing the show. And honestly, there was really no need to change it. I mean, there was no reason to fix something that wasn't broken. But they did, and it does have a major impact on the rest of the show's run, which we'll talk about later on, and maybe not even this episode, but in other episodes. There's also, like I said, there's a change. Actually, kind of funny enough, I call this season the green season because everything in this season is colored green or turquoise. And I kid you not, I've gone back and rewatched the season now, and I mean everything is green, turquoise, black, gray, or dark blue. There is very rarely any other colors. I mean, there's nothing else. especially with costume choices. Everybody is wearing something like that. Every now and then you'll see white sneak in there, but usually it's a straight white. There's nothing. I mean, it's like white with everything, all the other colors that I've mentioned already. It's kind of scary, especially going from the pastel kind of light, laid-back feeling of season 1 and 2. This is a big change, and I can't say that enough. It's a big change. Something else I think is kind of interesting is that midway through the season, as if, making the show more serious, like deadly serious, wasn't enough. Again, not to spoil anything here, I'm not going to say what happens, what episode, I'm not going to say anything. But there is the death of a major character in this season, and it's pretty much out of nowhere. I mean, they obviously build up to it, but there was nothing to kind of lead us into the fact that they were going to kill off one of the main cast members on the show. And it's kind of shocking. It's one of those ones where I think it's actually one of the first times a cop show ever did this. And again, Dick Wolf would kind of become popular for doing this later on. Every now and then what would happen on Law and Order, but man, like, it is really scary because, again, these cops are basically untouchable for the first 2 seasons, and now all of a sudden you got, like, literally somebody's dead and they're not coming back. And again, it's a shocking moment. It's a very shocking moment, especially for Miami Vice. And overall, I mean, Michael Mann is kind of sorely missed. I mean, he's still there in spirit because of the music and the style. I mean, it's still a really extremely stylish show. But for the most part, it's a very dark, serious show. But there's some really good episodes in this show, even though it's not the best season of the show. There are some really good ones. Some of the notable episodes that I really like are the premiere is called When Irish Eyes Are Crying, which I think is actually, again, well, not the premiere, I'm sorry. Is it the premiere? It might be. I gotta check that for you. But When Irish Eyes Are Crying, which I really like that episode. Liam Neeson's actually one of the main characters in that episode. Really good job, Liam. Only a sign of things to come for that actor. Stone's War, which is a follow-up to an episode that was actually in the 2nd season. Again, great episode. El Viejo, which I guess was supposed to be the first episode of the season, which is another great episode. Actually, Willie Nelson co-stars in that episode. That's a really great episode, but again, very deadly serious. And Down for the Count, which is a 2-parter, which is another extremely serious episode. But again, great, but not the greatest season of the show. And that kind of led to a big backlash, and a lot of people stopped watching the show during the season. So season 4, the writers and the creator of the show, Dick Wolf, had to kind of scramble to kind of think of a way to get people back, and what they did wasn't so great, and we'll talk about that next week. Overall, not the greatest season of the show, but I do enjoy it still, even though it's an extremely dark season, and like I said, they did kind of change something that didn't need to be changed. Overall, I give this season a good. It's not great, it's not bad, it's definitely not ugly, but I do give it a good because I do like the season, even though it's a stark change from the prior 2. Anyway, thanks for coming back to Cavanaugh's Corner. I really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.